you know. Got my headphones up, bro. You right there. Big stepper, we can never put on the same shoes. I been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard and I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Big stepper, we can never put on the same shoes. I been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard, man, I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Business is business, yeah. I grind for the check. Line up with me, you gon' see how different when I step up on the opponent's neck. Line up with me, you gon' see how different how I'm earning all of my respect. Line up with me, you gon' see how different how
Welcome in to today's LSU Fall Camp Practice Report. I'm not Jordy Culotta, I'm Noah Tingle. We've got Lloyd on the keys. We've also got Christian here on the mic. He came to practice and checked everything out. Today was a viewer only, no cameras, no filming or pictures or anything.
I think they put out plenty of content over the weekend.
Yes, they sure did.
Let's keep some of this in house.
Yeah. It's been fun to watch some of the content that's been coming out of practice, especially from LSU. You know, that Blake Baker clip yesterday was pretty awesome with him intercepting the pass and then running with it. And then one came out today of him missing an interception and then dropping down into some push-ups.
Practice what you preach.
There you go.
So he's out there. He's ball hawking. He wants another one. Now he's hungry.
Yeah, he's looking for it.
Well, he looks like a player.
Yeah, he is a player.
Player.
But today was a good practice. We got to get out there about 10:45. We were there for a little less than an hour. We got to watch some different things. We got out there at first and we got to see a little tackle in space drill with the linebackers and the running backs, which I think is going to be pretty useful for both sides. Because like we were talking about before we started, there's definitely going to be an impact and an influence on, you want to see the running backs catch the football out of the backfield because that's kind of what you're losing with Jaden Daniels, where now Nussmeier can move, but he doesn't have the outlet that Jaden has where he can just tuck it and run. And we've talked about Mason Taylor kind of being that guy that's going to be the safety valve, but I really think there's going to be an emphasis on running backs coming out of the backfield, and you got to see some of that today. And it was a good drill for both groups. There were some things that needed to be cleaned up defensively, on the angles they were taking, things like that. But it was very good. It was cool to see kind of the back and forth between Blake Baker and Frank Wilson with those two groups, because those are two guys that are all-star coaches on this staff, and they were fun to watch because they both, are very intelligent and know what they're talking about, know what they're looking at. There's actually one point in that drill where the quarterback that they had getting the ball to the running backs had a few bad throws in a row that the running backs didn't bring down, and then they switched to a little toss crack where they're just tossing it outside, and he messed the first one up, and Frank benched him and actually started throwing the passes and the tosses himself, which was fun to watch. But yeah, there wasn't too much going on there. And then I think, Christian, you were able to kind of catch some 7-on-7 stuff on the other side. I don't know if there's anything that stood out to you.
I mean, not much. The offense is kind of supposed to dominate that drill, especially when you have, your ones against their ones. The wide receivers on LSU this year are going to burn the cornerbacks on LSU. So,
right.
I mean, it's going to be offense dominated, and that's kind of what it was. There were a few good plays. They had some ones early in practice as well, one-on-one drills. And C.J. Daniels brought down a beautiful ball over the shoulder pass leading towards the end zone on Ashton Stamps. There was another play where Shelton Sampson went up and tried catching a ball, and he dropped it on the way down, but another good play from another receiver on LSU. But I thought early on in the day, it was a good day for the offense for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the 7-on-7 drill, especially for LSU, with the skill guys they have, it'll be tough for them to not consistently win, in space and things like that. But then we shifted gears pretty quickly to some punt, some special teams, which I know we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, trying to see what LSU is going to do when it comes to the punter position, but also the improvement on special teams is really going to be important this season. When it comes to the punter and who's going to be back there, for LSU, I definitely think the transfer Oceandorf is going to have the advantage. He seems to be ahead right now from our guy Peyton Todd. Todd had another. It wasn't a bad day. He had a couple good punts. It had improved a little bit. Then he had a bad drop on a snap, which he actually bounced back and had his best punt, I think, of camp right after. But Oceandorf is much more consistent, in my opinion, and he's got some great hang time, which is going to come in handy when you have guys like Perk and Sage and Gilbert and Major and everybody, Weeks and all of them running down, covering punts. You want to give them an opportunity to make a play if they can. But he had, the best punt of camp Oceandorf had today was right inside, I think, the 5. It was a good punt. It had some good hang time on it. And he just looks like the guy so far.
And when they're doing these, is it more like directional punting, or are they full force, like we're punting it to see like kick coverage, or is it directional coffin corner, or is it just this is as far as we can kick it kind of deal? Yeah,
I definitely don't see too many where they're aiming it, like they're trying to get it in a specific spot. There's times where you can tell they're trying to, get it towards the sideline or whatever, but it's definitely more of let's just kick the ball and let the guys go make the tackle. I think it's more of just kick it as far as you can, and right now it appears that Oceandorf, to me, still has the edge over Todd, even though Todd has improved, over camp. He's had all the opportunity in the world over the last couple of seasons to really make his mark, and he still really hasn't done that yet. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, because I still think Todd is the starter right now. Like, he went up there and punted first with the first group, and they brought Oceandorf in after. So it will be intriguing to see over the next couple of weeks if they make a change, if there's a jump or whatever, if they give Oceandorf the nod. But right now, in my opinion, and I think a lot of the media guys out there would agree, that Oceandorf appears to have an edge.
Yeah. Side note, the returners, there's about 3 or 4 I think I see that are pretty comfortable with taking the ball back and fair catching and stuff.
Right.
I think there are a couple that are a little hesitant and a little nervous back there. But when the lights turn on, you need a solid returner, and I think right now Xavier Thomas looks the best in my eyes. I think he looks most comfortable. He's quick, he's speedy, he can bring it back. So I expect to see Xavier Thomas week 1 taking it back. He looks most comfortable. So
and he's got the most experience at that spot in the SEC games. So I think he definitely has the nod. But they've got the same group of 4 back there: Xavier Thomas, Aaron Anderson, Kyle Parker, and Jelani Watkins.
Yeah.
But the good thing is you haven't seen any muffs. You haven't really seen any mistakes. They've been able to get to the football, make the catch. They're all athletic enough to do something after that.
Well, and that's the reason you brought both of those guys in, whether it be Oceandorf or Xavier Thomas, is because you've had issue. Well, I guess at punter you didn't, but then you noticed early on enough that it feels like you might need some competition for Peyton Todd, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him take that job just because of what he did as an all-conference punter at Tech, where it's not you didn't bring in somebody that was a filler. You brought in somebody to come in and challenge for the job, and as a punt returner, you didn't have one. Like, you had Greg Clayton, who was graduated, and then it was kind of everybody else, where you want Aaron Anderson to be able to win that job. But if you can go get a player like Xavier Thomas, who, coming off injury, I would imagine, at least in camp, was he a full go?
Yeah, he seems to be back in and rolling. I think it was a hamstring tweak, I think was the issue.
Yeah.
But he's been, I think he was back on Saturday, and today he appeared to be a full go, back fully healthy, which is definitely good for LSU. Stephen Miller had a question in the chat. Do you see a better short field punter as opposed to just booming it? My thought would be I think Todd kind of fits the short field punter idea, just because I haven't seen him really get a lot underneath it or behind it. But you really haven't seen them, at least from my point of view, use any of that strategy in these practices where it's let's see if we can just kind of pooch it or whatever, or get it inside the 20. I think it's really just kind of been kind of baseline. Let's make sure the coverage is good on defending the return. Let's make sure we're blocking well on the rush, and let's just get a punt in the air, really, and make sure the returners catch it. So I haven't seen too much strategy when it goes into that section of the practices. But who knows, as time goes on, we might see that. But I think when it comes to just straight up booming the punt and who gives you the best chance to make a play, in coverage would be Oceandorf.
Sorry, just from what we saw the last time we were at practice, when they did have an emphasis on special teams, did it look at least a little better than what we saw?
Yes.
Because they were punting with the wind, every advantage that you could have, and they couldn't get really a ball up into the air when that was not being run up under by a returner. And the snap to kick time took quite a while, where they had guys in the backfield that were kind of breezing by the punter. Any of those issues been alleviated?
There still has been, to me, some plays on, when they're blocking. Now, they're not really trying to block the punt, so you can't really tell. But there's been some times, in my opinion, that it looks like
they could catch the snap.
They could make a play. Like if it's USC week 1 and they're actually trying to block the punt, they could. And so I think that's just more of a time, like a rhythm thing, than it is a blocking issue. Because I think the guys that are up there blocking for the punter have done their job. I just think the speed and the rhythm is just maybe a tick or two too slow, which has caused a little bit of an issue. But I definitely have seen improvement as time's gone on. Today, there weren't too many of those where you see the guys just running straight past the punter. The timing is getting better. But I think when there's so much up in the air when it comes to who's going to be the punter, it's very difficult to really get all the timing down because they're kind of mixing the groups up and making sure the coverage is right. There's just a lot of moving pieces that LSU has to get right because they haven't done it well. It's crazy that's almost the most stressful part of practice is the special teams aspect, because LSU has to make adjustments. They have to get it right. They need to fix the issues they've had. So you're looking at the punter and making sure you get the punt off. You're making sure the snap looks clean, that the guys that are blocking for the punter are doing their job. You want to make sure the guys that are going to cover the punt are doing their job. But then on the flip side, you want to make sure the guys returning the punt are catching it. And so there's just a lot of moving parts that LSU has to get right and has to improve on from, the last 2 seasons. And I expect them to. It's just going to be, growth step by step and section by section. And really, it can't be understated how important of a part of the game that is. Even with Garrett Nussmeier and this explosive offense, the punter is gonna touch the field. You're gonna punt the ball at some point. I mean, LSU they punted the ball with Joe Burrow at quarterback, with Jay Daniels at quarterback. It doesn't matter how good the offense is, you're gonna have to punt at some point. And on the same token, it doesn't matter how bad your defense is, you're gonna have to return one at some point. And so LSU has to get this right, because like I think Jordy said last week, if you go into this season and you still have issues, whether it's returning the punt, whether it's actually punting the football, whether it's field goal, and all these different aspects of special teams, if that is still an issue, a change has to be made, because that can cost you some games, especially this season where you might not be as good offensively. You're hoping to be better defensively. You don't want special teams to be the thing that holds you back. So that's something that we're going to continue to watch through these practices ahead of USC, is all these different aspects of special teams and if LSU can continue to improve.
Right. It's not just offense and defense. I mean,
Right.
Especially with this team, you don't have Ohio State's roster. You need to go out and win as many games as you can. And when you don't have teams like special teams and some of these other units that don't do it 100%
Right.
all the time, it might cost you a game, and you really can't afford that, especially 3 years into this Brian Kelly era.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, kind of moving on from that, some good news was today defense won the day.
Yeah.
I think after the 7-on-7 through the rest of the drills, defense was very impressive. Whether it was one-on-ones with the offensive line to the 11-on-11 at the end, I think today was a very impressive day for the defense. And along with that, I think it was a very important day for the defense, and kind of their morale and energy going into the next couple of weeks leading up to the opener in Las Vegas. The offensive line still definitely dominated in those one-on-one drills and even the 5-on-5, 5-on-4, whatever. Offensive line still won basically all of them, but you were able to see some bright spots. I think Jacoby and Guillory definitely is a bright spot on this defensive line, and you're going to see him kind of answer the call that's right there in front of him because he has to. You talk about this defensive tackle group and who's going to step up, who's going to make an impact regardless of, all the moving parts. And you want to see somebody like Jacoby and Guillory who's been a part of the program, who has the talent, really, answer the call and do what's expected of him. And the mindset and the energy he's had through these first couple weeks of practices has definitely shown that he wants to answer that call and he wants to make the plays. And he's going to be, your starting defensive tackle, whether it's, whoever the next guy is. He's going to be on the field a lot for LSU and expect him to make some plays, not only because of his athletic ability, but just the energy he brings and the fight that he has. It really sets the tone for everyone else on that defense. I think there was a clip that LSU put out on social media where he was able to make a play on a running back in one of those drills. And he let the defense hear it, he let the offense hear it. I mean, he had the energy, he was yelling, he was into it. And that's what you want. You want some dogs in the trenches. You don't want a poodle, as Blake Baker said.
Right.
And I think that's what Jacoby and Guillory is, and that's what he brings to the table. And then you saw some other bright spots. I think Dominic McKinley has continued to get better and continued to look like the 5-star that he is, the number 1 player in Louisiana that he is. And just, it would be surprising that if he doesn't get, some time. I don't know if he'll get the nod in the season opener, but expect him to make some plays in game 1, but definitely in game 2 and 3. That'll kind of boost him through the rest of the season. He's gonna get to touch the field. Here's Jacoby and Guillory here. He was able to make this play, and he let everybody hear it after. He's got the energy, he's got that dog, and he's gonna really set the tone for this defense, which is very exciting because that's what you need. You need somebody that's gonna make plays, set the tone. There he is again, just getting after it, and that's what you want. I mean, that is what an LSU defensive lineman is supposed to be like. I mean, gritty, angry, mean, mad.
Loud.
Do what? Loud. I mean, and he's gonna and that's what's gonna set the tone for the rest of these guys. From the defensive tackle to the ends to the linebackers to the safeties to the corners, just everybody. That's a guy that wants it and is ready to make the plays.
One of the few guys that has actually been coached by Blake Baker in his first stint here. So it's been a cool little, I guess, full circle moment for Blake Baker to come back, Jacoby and Guillory still be on the roster, and see, they have a different kind of rapport, so it might be something that helps unlock Jacoby and Guillory. And speaking of Blake Baker and the defense, new defensive alignments today, I hear?
Yes, there was a new alignment we saw. It was actually a very interesting group. You saw 3 guys kind of down on the line, and the group of 3 is what surprised me. Was Swinson with Savion Jones and Paris Shand as the 3 guys kind of on the line, which was cool because those are 3 guys that are considered edge rushers. Although Savion and Shand are kind of bigger, they're still edge guys, and they've been working, as defensive ends. And then you've also got Harold Perkins and Major Burns kind of on the outside, disguised as either pass rushers or dropping back into coverage. And you also had Whit Weeks out there with them, and then you had some more DBs. You had Sage Ryan, Jair Brown, J.K. Johnson, Jordan Gilbert, and Jordan Allen. And so it was kind of a 3-2-6 set with Major and Perk kind of on the line, so it could be a 5-1-5. It was a very interesting set, but you can tell that gives them more speed, more defensive backs in the backfield to make up for if you're sending 5. Now you've got, or if you're sending 6, or if you're sending 4, and where it's coming from, they're able to disguise some more things. And so that was a cool lineup to kind of see out there. I'm not sure how much they'll use it and how much they'll mix it up, but that is some of that creativity that we were talking about with Blake Baker and this defense going into this season. While you might not have the top end talent outside of Harold Perkins that you've had in past seasons, especially on the defensive line and in the defensive backfield, but they're going to be creative and they're going to make things work. And I think this kind of lineup is definitely that creative aspect where you've got three legitimate edge rusher, pass rushers on the line with Harold Perkins and Major Burns kind of disguised. Whit Weeks right there also kind of disguised, where you really don't know what you're expecting, as an offense. You don't know what player's rushing, who's not, who's dropping in coverage. And so that was a very cool lineup to kind of see. And I think that's something that could be very useful for LSU, in different, packages, like whether it's third down, 3rd and 5, 3rd and medium, maybe even
passing
3rd and
situations.
long. Right, where okay, they're going to drop back and they're going to throw the football. Let's go make something happen. And that's something that you want to see because that's an issue LSU had last year was getting off the field on 3rd down.
48% of the time they did not.
They were able to play defense on 1st and 2nd, and whether it was 3rd and long, 3rd and short, 3rd and extremely long, teams were converting, and LSU's defense was staying on the field. And so I think this kind of defensive package will allow for LSU to get off the field because you have the guys back there to make plays as defensive backs and really just keep them in front of the sticks, whether you get to the quarterback or not. If you can make them do a quick dump-off pass and make the tackle, you can get off the field. And so that's that creativity that we were looking for out of the LSU defense this season.
And I have a cut from Blake Baker talking about how they've kind of been using practice and tackling because you only have, in his words, 4 days to really tackle as a defense. So he's been implementing some new things. So I wanted to play that for us.
Want it to be or what we are right now? Right now, I'll be honest, we're inconsistent. What I want it to be, if we do our job, I think we got a chance to be pretty good. I really do. I think we have all the pieces in place to have a good defense. What I want to see is a little more player-led accountability, and guys just doing their job on a consistent basis. If we do that, we can have a good year. We're not there yet, but I think we have really good speed. I think we're physical. We're still improving as a tackling unit right now, but we have shown improvement from the spring. I think our guys really work hard at it. You don't have a lot of opportunities to tackle live throughout fall camp, but we work hard on it, through drill work and whatnot. But I think we have a chance to be pretty good. We just got to be more consistent.
Yeah, no, and I think that was the end of the week last week when he met with the media. And so I think you kind of saw a response from the defense today from that, that soundbite where, the first drill we got out there was a drill for the linebackers to tackle in space, where the running back's getting it out of the backfield and there's nothing but space because it's just you and a running back. And while they weren't hitting, you could see the emphasis on being in the right spot. And now it comes down to if you make the tackle or not, but they were consistently in the right spot, where there were some guys that, maybe made, a mistake here or there, took the wrong angle, whatever. They saw it, they adjusted, they fixed it. There were multiple guys that had good reps, and it's going to be very cool to kind of see the growth because there will be growth. And now how big of a jump it is from last year to this year, we will see. But there's going to be growth. Like there's going to be improved tackling, improved playmaking defensively, different little things that are going to look better. Organization, broken coverages, things like that. If they can fix those things, you instantly drop from the worst defense in the country to a mediocre defense in the country. If you can fix being in the right spot and making the tackle.
At the least, right.
Right. And that's, that's very baseline. And so if they can fix those things, they instantly become more competitive. And then it comes down to players making plays. And they definitely have the guys with the skill to be able to do that.
Especially today. And speaking on consistency, look, they had a very good day today. I don't think anybody really expects them to come out and play like that every single snap. But if they can even just get a bit of that,
right,
they would improve so much more from last year. And the biggest thing we saw today was, there was a turnover. They had another opportunity for an interception. Sage Ryan playing cornerback made a great pass breakup. And, we're not asking that every single day, but,
right,
give us something, and they didn't give us anything last year, and I think this year they will.
Yeah, no, there's definitely improvements. We got to see a little 11-on-11 at the end. It wasn't the most convenient. We're kind of on one sideline. There's a field, and then there's another field with the sideline in between. So we were on this sideline. They were doing 11-on-11 on the opposite field. So it was kind of difficult to see, but we were able to, get a good eye. And leading up to that 11-on-11 aspect, the defense was yelling, jumping around, had high energy. They were excited to get out there, and it rolled over onto the field. You had first group offense versus first group defense. Pretty live, about as live as you can get in fall camp. Mm-hmm. And offense had a 3-and-out. I think the first down play was they had to throw the football away, and then they ended up having a short completion or whatever on second down. Then on third down, you had a pass breakup by Jordan Allen on Kyron Lacey, where Nussmeier put it right on Lacey. Allen came from behind and knocked it out, which was huge. I mean, that's the plays that you need to get off the field.
Get off the field, yeah.
That's how you get off the field. And now in this drill, they didn't go to special teams, so the offense went for it on fourth down. And you saw a Nussmeier pass batted up and then intercepted by Parashand. Mm-hmm. And so obviously that's on a fourth and short, but in a game that could be second down, that could be things like that. So you saw them make plays and they got off the field. And then right after that, it was second team offense versus second team defense. And you saw another throwaway on play 1. I think it was an incompletion on play 2. And then they got it. Swan threw it to Pimpton right kind of near the sticks on third down, which led to a fourth and short. And Swan kind of threw it up for Shelton. And this was the play Christian was talking about where Shelton kind of came down with it, but Zy Alexander was able to break it up kind of at the end. There was a little bit of physicality and pushing and shoving on the catch that maybe could have been a PI, but there was no flag thrown. It was broken up. That's another 3-and-out or 4-and-out. And then they went back to once, and this is as we were kind of leaving, so I don't know if we were supposed to be watching, but, we're still in there. Everybody in there was watching.
Yep.
And so, we're looking, and they did one more play, first offense versus first defense, Harold Perkins sack. What was the last thing we got to see. And so that was, that's a win. I mean, you got off the field on third down twice with your first group against your first group offense and your second group against your second group offense. And then you ran one more play, and it was Harold Perkins rushing off the edge and getting a sack. And so that was kind of the energy, the impact. I mean, you saw them celebrating the Shand interception, things like that. And so if they can continue to have that energy and that excitement and fly around kind of the way they did, but really just make plays and capitalize on being in the right spots. I mean, that Jordan Allen pass breakup on third down was nothing more than being in the right spot and then taking advantage of it. It wasn't like he made this outstanding, once-in-a-lifetime play where he's flying around, whatever. He was in the right spot where he's supposed to be, and he did what he was supposed to do, and it worked out. And so those are the improvements that LSU has to see this season defensively. Being in the right spot consistently and then taking advantage of the opportunity, whether that's, breaking up a pass or just bringing him down and making the tackle. If the LSU is able to tackle him with one of the first two guys, it solves a lot of the issues you saw last season.
Blake Baker said it perfectly right before they jumped into 11-on-11. He said, do your effing job and you'll win the game. Yep. Talking about the little mini 11-on-11 game. And, I mean, they did. Every single player, it looked like, did their job. I think the only thing they allowed in that 11-on-11 between the first teams was a Chris Hilton drag route for about 6-7 yards. And then after that, it was a bat down by Jordan Allen, and then a tip drill interception by Parashant. So I mean, it was a very good day for the defense. Yeah, everyone did their job, and it looked pretty good.
It's encouraging.
And this is from Wilson Alexander. It's quarterbacks went 3 for 8 in this little session. It was a passing only type deal. So that's where you had the Parashant interception. Jordan Allen and Alexander had pass breakups, which y'all talked about, and the quarterbacks were 3 for 8 in the drill that y'all were able to see. So that's from Wilson, but. That's what probably that new look defense when you bring in an extra nickel and it starts to look like something that the quarterbacks probably haven't seen yet, at least not live. And it probably was something of an adjustment for them too. It's like, look, there's a variety of looks that LSU can throw at you where it's like, we're confused for 8 straight plays.
Right.
And so that's promising in my eyes from what LSU can do, and to know that it's pass only.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're coming at me and Garrett Nussmeier knows I'm going at them. It was basically I mean, you won 5 of the 8 reps.
Best on best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was encouraging as, people that cover the program, encouraging as fans, encouraging, I'm sure, for them as a defense.
Well, especially after what happened on Saturday.
Right.
Where it didn't feel like anything really went LSU's way defensively.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it's an encouraging day. I'm not going to sit here and say that LSU's figured it out defensively and they're going to be a top 10 defense because they forced the quarterbacks to go 3 for 8, on 8 passing plays.
No, but they have a pulse.
But they have a pulse and they have energy. They have a desire and a drive. And, defense is about being in the right spot and showing some effort. And I think that's what LSU's adjustment's going to be this season. Is the effort's obviously going to be high because they have the desire to be great. And with this new coaching staff, being in the right spot is going to be as important as anything else they do this season. Brambo asked the question, has Nuss had a practice where he didn't throw an interception? I don't know particularly. I'm sure there has been one, but these interceptions are not issues. I mean, today it was a batted pass. The defense made a play. Some of these other interceptions in past practices, you want them to happen now in training camp, in fall camp, where you can see what he did wrong, he can adjust so that there's not going to be an issue during the season.
And a lot of these practices are set up for him to throw the football, like in a 7-on-7 setting, or it's a pass-only drill. They don't want to see him throw it away. They want to see, this is more for the defense than anything, like see where they are, how they react to a ball in the air. It's not necessarily him forcing it, but you're not throwing it away in 7-on-7.
Right.
Like if we saw him throw away in 11-on-11, whenever it's full go, it feels like at least, like he's not going to get hit. But there's still plays where it's, okay, live to fight another down. He's not going to get any credit for throwing it away 5 times in 7-on-7.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's not like these balls were bad balls. It was, Colin Hurley. No, who was the second quarterback?
A.J. Swan.
A.J. Swan threw the ball to Shelton Sampson. Cornerback made a good play on it. And
That's
it
what
was
you want to
incomplete.
see.
And then Jordan Allen came in on 3rd down in the first team, 11-on-11, and swatted the ball out of, who was it, Kyron Lacey?
Yep.
Kyron Lacey's hands. I mean, it was a good play on 3rd down.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, there is no concern about Garrett Nussmeier as the quarterback. Now, will you maybe see more interceptions this year than the past 2 years with Jaden? Possibly, but it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be this issue where the sky is falling because Nussmeier throws an interception at practice.
It's probably going to be more than what you had 7 in 2 years from
Right.
Jaden Daniels. Like that,
Yeah.
He had a specific skill set that allowed him not to throw
Right.
interceptions. And like you said early on, if that is, since he can't do exactly what Jaden Daniels does, you'll start to see a lot of checkdowns to running backs where I don't mind seeing Caden Durham in space. I don't mind seeing Caleb Jackson in space. I already saw it once.
Right.
And then Josh Williams is going to be in there doing a lot of pass pro, and he'll probably slip out to the backfield. So it doesn't have to be mega shots. There's still safe plays to be made out there.
Definitely.
With guys in space that they can do what Jaden Daniels did. You just have to get it from A to B.
Right, and the interception Nuss had today by Parrott Shand, I mean, that's
defensive play.
It was a defensive play, but it was also like 4th and 2, where in the game, especially against USC, I mean, you have the best offensive line in the country, and you have Caleb Jackson, Josh Williams, John Emery, Caden Durham, whoever back there. That's going to be a handoff more than anything else, but this is a pass-only drill. So that interception shouldn't weigh heavy on LSU fans' minds because it's not a problem. And you're not going to very rarely this season are you going to see LSU go out there and on the first 3 plays of a possession throw the ball all 3 plays.
Right.
More than often you're going to see a run play probably on 1st down or 2nd down. Like they're going to run the football much more than in the past, and there's going to be an emphasis on these guys in the backfield. And so the interceptions during practice are not an issue. It's not a problem. It's not a freak out, sky is falling, all of that.
It's not an Aaron Brooks situation
Right.
where it's happening quite a bit, or Jameis Winston with the Bucks, where it's like he's going to throw 30 this year.
Right.
needs eye surgery.
Yeah.
That's not the issue.
Real quick before we get out of here, do you notice anything with Garrett Dellinger playing center? I'm reading that it's the 2nd practice in a row where he's worked at center, and DJ Chester was at guard.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't seen too much of any issues or anything, that way. I think all the snaps have been clean, and they've both done a good job kind of working in those positions. I think it was a little bit of growing pains for Chester because I don't think he was a center in high school, and so it was probably an adjustment of, I got to focus on snapping the ball right, and then I got to pick my head up and block Jacoby and Guillory running at me. And so I think it's just kind of some growing pains, and I think he will be, probably the LSU center at some point. But if he's not, all of these guys are utility-type players. I mean,
especially Dellinger.
Especially Dellinger. I mean, that's the way that Brad Davis has built this room, with guys with multiple skill sets, all with solid size that can really move around on that offensive line. And so I think, with Dellinger at center, it's a guy who can do the job. Chester's still a viable option on the line. It's not like Dellinger got the nod and they bumped, Chester to second team. They just moved him over because he's a good offensive lineman. So I don't think there should be, really any concern with that. I think the offensive line is the one room where I'm not going to be concerned at all with whatever happens. Because what I've seen first group and second group, they're constantly winning and being in control, and they just look good. And Brad Davis is very much in control of that room. And so there's really nothing to worry about, but I haven't seen any issues from either moving around.
No, and that, like you said, they've been cross-training these guys to be able to play every position. Dellinger has played nearly every position, and from an experience standpoint, he's a senior that has played all 4 years at LSU. Right. And you have DJ Chester coming in off, maybe 4 games at LSU?
Yeah.
And so if you want somebody that's able to signal call, help with alignment, assignment, can help you call out what the defense is in, Dellinger can do that from the center position, as opposed to really, you can't have a guard do that.
Right.
And so it's something that can probably help Nuss, and while Chester learns kind of on the fly a little bit while still being able to play.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the changes like this in a room like the offensive line room for LSU are not an issue, because that's a room with uber depth, uber talent, and with a very, very good position coach. And you haven't seen, any issues arise, over the last couple of practices with that change. They've both been able to make an adjustment and do their job. And I think Brad Davis is going to be very much in control of that room and, throughout the season, whether anything else has to be changed. But yeah, I think today was a very good practice for LSU. Whether or not, this ends up being a sign of what's to come, it's definitely a win for the program and the future of the program, because you were able to see really some energy and desire from the defense that you didn't see last year. I mean, you really didn't see too much. I mean, we had the video of Denver Harris and Harold Perkins singing Boosie on the sideline against Arkansas, but they gave up, 31 points to that Arkansas team. So this was energy that rolled over on the field, which is 1,000% a win for LSU. So it's going to be exciting over the next couple of weeks to continue to see the defense grow. Because more than often they're going to get beat by this offense, whether it's offensive line, receivers, running backs. This offense is going to be at the top of the country in a lot of statistical categories. But days like today, where the defense is able to really almost dominate and have high energy, those are the days that they're going to be able to look back on, come September 1st or, October 12th against Ole Miss, or, the first weekend of November against Alabama. Like, whenever it happens, days like today are going to be, what these guys can call back on and remember. This is how, this is where it started. This is where it began. This is where the energy and the excitement came from. And
I think that's a perfect almost reason why you brought in Blake Baker, because I feel like there was a little bit of lack of communication and lack of enthusiasm from Matt House, who knows how to coach defense. He's got another job in the NFL.
Right.
But I feel like it just wasn't married up with what a college enthusiasm and all of that is, when instead you have Blake Baker making picks in practice and running them back, cover up the ball too, look good. But that kind of thing where the whole defense is like cheering for him, as opposed to Matt House kind of sauntering around and twisting the whistle. It's like, this isn't fun at all.
Yeah.
And you're just getting kind of bagged for alignment, assignment, but not having any juice when you do it right. So I think that's why the hire was made, and he's probably was the best defensive coordinator in the country last year, at least on the short list of them.
Yeah. So, you are going to see, you can mark my word, you're going to see an improvement defensively. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a major improvement. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 10 group, but you're going to see an improvement when it comes to the coaching aspect. Now, if players don't make plays, that's different. But in the coaching aspect of the organization, the being in the right spot, things like that, you're going to see an improvement because of who Blake Baker is.
And he's even said, I have the clip right here, and I'll play it for you just because his words are better than mine. But here he is talking about simplifying the defense with just in terms of like easy calls and such, which we saw Major Burns doing a lot of on the defensive side.
Right.
Absolutely. I think our scheme is very user-friendly, very player-friendly. We really do work hard sometimes, it takes some time, but we do a really good job, I think, as a staff compartmentalizing things, putting things in buckets, trying to give them some word association so it's clicking with them pretty quickly. And I think our guys are playing really fast, sometimes too fast, and that's sometimes part of our inconsistency right now. But in all honesty, that's okay. Sometimes you'd rather have to pull the chain back than have to kick them on the booty on the way out the door. So we just got to slow them down in some instances. But I think our kids are playing fast again. I think it really has to do with the way we implement the scheme. And then I think we got really good, teachers. When you look at our coaching staff, these guys have coached in a lot of different schemes. They understand football. They understand concepts. But I think that's the biggest thing. And then the second part of it is communication. I think our guys have really stepped up from a verbal communication standpoint, pre-snap and post-snap, which allows us to play faster. And it builds trust in the unit. So, again, once we start separating the units a little bit and not mixing and matching so many bodies, I should see an uptick in that just because you're working with the same one or two guys, on a every snap basis.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are exciting things to hear. The playing fast is definitely a win because, like he said, I'd rather pull the leash a little bit than have to kick them and get them to show effort and play fast. And talk and communicate. And those are going to be the things that lead to improvement on the defensive side.
Right, and everyone talks about bringing the swag back to the LSU defense and all this other stuff, bringing Corey Raymond back and stuff like that. But it starts with the defensive coordinator. I mean, I think he's a perfect fit for it. I mean, he brings the energy. He brought the energy today. You see it in the videos on social media. So I think he's doing a good job of that already. So.
Damn, so we won't have a video of him dropping the pick. Good for him. Doesn't exist if you don't have tape.
Yep, there you go. But no, there's a video of that, though.
It's on
LSU's Twitter. He dropped into some push-ups. But, there should be an excitement around Blake Baker. Whether or not you see a drastic improvement in Game 1 on September 1st, there should be excitement around him being your defensive coordinator because of what he brings to the table and the impact he's already been able to make, in what's really been a short period of time here at LSU. I think Lloyd's going to show off the energy from LSU's defensive coordinator here, and really just why there's more excitement with that group, with that unit.
You tried to go up and get this one.
I mean, look at that. That's
he's repping them out too.
That's going to mean a lot to the guys on the field. Like, coach didn't make the play, but guess what he did? He held himself
accountability.
And
it's just somebody that's engaged in the defense.
Right.
Like he's watching every play, watching the quarterback, and he's participating in a sense. But I think that's awesome. That goes a long way just in terms of getting the guys to be engaged because he is.
Right. 100%. And that's something that can be said for every single coach I've seen on the practice field for LSU.
Peoples is everywhere.
100%. Like, in all the practices I've been to so far this fall camp, they are all engaged. You can really see their desire to win. Like that they know this is a big time. They're all engaged, whether it's the coaches that you know their name or the coaches that you don't know their name. I mean, everybody out on that field is engaged, which is why there's some excitement to come in. Now, are there issues? Yes, there are times where the defense isn't in the right spot. The defensive line is pretty consistently getting chewed out by Bo Davis. He's quite often the loudest guy out there on the practice field, and you can tell that that's because he's upset and not happy. But so there's going to be mistakes. It's not going to always be pretty, but you're going to see improvement. So I'm not here to preach that LSU is going to be this monster defense and so improved and way better than last year, but
they will be better than last year.
They will be better than last year. Regardless of how big the gap is from last year to this year, there's going to be a gap. There's going to be a difference. And that's really as much as you can ask for after watching what we watched last year. And so there should be excitement leading up to September 1st. Now, I'm not going to tell you how excited to be, but there should be some excitement because LSU hasn't won a season opener since 2019.
Yes,
Yes.
Georgia Southern, Joe Burrow. There's been 4 straight losses, and this is shaping up to be one that LSU can pull off. Now, I don't know what's been going on,
with USC.
with USC, but I know when it comes to desire and hunger, that's all I've seen on the practice field from LSU so far. Whether they make the plays or not, there's definitely going to be a hunger and a desire to win that football game.
And I would imagine that it's probably a lot of the same thing coming out of the USC side of camp because they did essentially the same thing that LSU did and replaced their entire defensive staff and brought in probably on that short list of best defensive coordinators in the country in Deanna Lynn.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that there's a lot of this looks way different than it did under Alex Grinch last year.
Yeah.
So what's the schedule for tomorrow? Do we know?
I think we've got practice at 9:45. We're going to be able to, shoot some video and such. And then I think, from what I remember, we should be able to hang out after the video portion. So if we are able to hang out, we'll be back here with you to break it down again. But if not, because it's very hard for us to do a practice recap if we're only getting 15 minutes of practice.
Right.
We're seeing maybe 3 drills.
Because it's not always team stuff that you even really want to hear about it. We thought about doing it last Friday, and it was literally 15 minutes of special teams. Like, y'all got to go.
Yeah.
It's like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so there would be no reason for us to
Yeah.
come sit down for 30 minutes and ultimately lie about what we watch in practice because there's no way to make a 30-minute show about 15 minutes of practice.
I mean, we could have.
But if we're able, to be out there, which I think we should, let me double check. It says open to media for remainder of practice. So we should be able to get to watch, the rest. We'll be back with you to discuss what we saw yesterday. I think Christian will be out there with me again. And we'll actually have some media to be able some pictures and some video for you guys on social media. So make sure you're tapped in there. But we'll be able to come back on here tomorrow and break it down for you again. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to a couple of kids blabber about LSU football practice. But we'll be back with you.
We're there and you're not.
Whether tomorrow or Wednesday or whatever day it is. We'll be back with you. We appreciate you tuning in. We will see you guys then.
But we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard and I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Big step, but we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard, man, I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Business is business, yeah. I grind for the check. Line up with me, you gon' see how different when I step up on the opponent's necks. Line up with me, you gon' see how different how I'm earning all of my respect. Line up with me, you gon' see how different how I run the game, but don't stretch. My hitters stay with me. Give them nothing, we putting up 60. We got power, you better call 50. Better chill like I reached like Wimby. It's not rocket science, shit you gotta know. We put them down like some dominoes. Wake up early, put the time in.